What's up, everybody? I'm Leo Reyes Rayon,
I'm Josh Glazer.
and today we're going to be talking about Jadeveon Clowney. Now, Jadeveon Clowney, as we all know, uh, how would I explain this? Like, he's like a game record, but sometimes like he just kind of goes ghost. And I say that from a Texans fan's perspective because obviously like, I'm a huge Texans fan. But he was the kind of guy that I guess through injuries. Like how do I say this? Like through injuries, he just kind of never lived up to the hype that we drafted him with, man. And so we let him go, you know what I mean? And he
We
signed.
trade. You got some
Yeah,
for
we
him at
tried.
least.
Yeah, well, shit. It felt. I mean, by what we got back, it felt like we let him go. We traded him, and he had a decent year. He had flashes, you know what I mean, but I guess it wasn't good enough for them to sign him back, obviously. And now we're here today, and he is a free agent and still unsigned. And I think he's such an interesting player because like I feel like there's a remarkable amount of interest in him, but the amount of money he wants is kind of like clashing between the two. You know what I mean? And yeah, man. So I mean, obviously, like there's been a lot of talk about him going to the Ravens and stuff. And the Titans. Mike Vrabel loved him when he was in Houston, and I mean, there's a lot to love about him. He's a very talented player. But man, if it's me being a Texans fan, I don't want him to go to the Titans or the Colts or the Jags. I don't want to play him too because he's the kind of guy that puts fear in your heart, and that like whenever that switch is flipped, like he can play like a Clowney on any given day. You know what I mean? So you know it's just I hope that he plays anywhere but in the AFC South this year, bro. That's all I can say about that right now. You know.
Yeah, he's kind of an interesting player because he's asking to be paid for his upside and for his flashes. And the real issue is that he just doesn't consistently show that flash. I mean, he's a overall good run defender, so he's gonna get that. He's gonna get paid based on that. But that's a whole different ballpark than a consistent pass rusher. The teams that you see, first of all, the numbers that he initially threw out was he was trying to get around $20 million a year, which was kind of crazy when you look back at it. But hey, it's good to go in the market and say this is what I want, and because you have longer time, you can play the long game. Because he's made some money over his career, then you just play it out and see what eventually falls into place. Someone gets hurt, someone doesn't, someone else has a contract issue. So yeah, there's rumors now that he's around 15 or so that he wants now, or 10. So, but from what I've heard, he's not going back to Seattle unless he drops way down, probably under 10 or around 10. I think it would probably go back to Seattle. They've never been one to really overpay for free agents. They've kind of developed from within and kind of built their defense. He would fit pretty much anywhere he would want to go. He's been linked to the Browns. He's been linked to the Eagles recently. He's been linked to the Ravens, as you said, Colts, Titans, Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's kind of really come down to how it's not going to be a lot about him. A lot about the teams. They're all going to kind of give a certain amount, kind of probably the same number. I don't think any of them are going to blink, especially with the coronavirus thing and how money is kind of not really sure how it's going to look in a couple of years with the salary cap. So I think that it's going to be a decision that he gets to make of when he's going to bring his price down, or if he gets lucky and a team loses a star player at the D-line position, because he can kind of play across the D-line pretty well.
Yeah.
With both schemes. So if someone gets hurt, maybe they flinch and they blink, and maybe they give him all the money that he wants. But it'll be a thing to keep your eyes on. Me personally, I just hope he stays in the AFC, but hopefully not the AFC South for Houston Texans fans. But in with my viewpoint, just anywhere in the AFC would be fine, just so we don't have to deal with him. But he's kind of, and you can tell me if this is wrong because you've watched him more than me. But from what I've seen and what I remember, he kind of plays really well against teams that may or may not have the best pass blocking O lines and may not have the highest level of talent and cohesion in their units. He
Yeah,
takes advantage of that. But when he's in these bigger games and he's playing against these more highly touted players and better units, he seems to kind of, as you say, go ghost.
he's like, I mean, but I want to say there was a game last year. I didn't watch the Seahawks that much after, we traded them. But there was a game, I want to say, against the 49ers that
Yeah, no, you're right.
he played good against
well.
the 49ers. But, I mean, like, when he plays against, I mean, I
The
don't want to say
49ers,
that.
though, aren't really a super talented offensive line.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I wouldn't say that they are the most physical or talented offensive line because the last thing I really remember about Clowney when I knew that we were getting rid of him or when I knew that he wasn't getting the contract he wanted was against that game that we played the Colts in the playoffs, and it's just like I can't remember if it was Braden Smith or Quentin Nelson just pancaking the shit out of him in the back of the end zone, you know? And like the problem is that like I mean, I don't want to sound like a Clowney hater. I love Clowney, but like it's like he's
it's all right. Embrace it. He's gone.
he's
You
like
don't have to.
a he's no, I mean I do like he's a good nice guy, but like he's like a like he's good. Okay, he's not really a consistent pass rusher all the time, and he's better against the run. We all know that he's good against the run, but it's really like if you can't get the initial block, if you get the initial block on him where like you get a really solid hit on him, you win. Like he beats you off of quickness. He's not really like the most like uh, what do you call it, like disciplined run like guy
Yeah,
in the
he's not very versatile in his pass rush moves. He doesn't have a ton of moves that he's put together that
and
really are effective.
and,
It's
and
the
he
kind of
gambles and he gambles a lot. You know what I mean? He
yeah.
gambles a lot. So like sometimes he gambles wrong, and then they get outside, or sometimes what I mean he just gets put on his ass by dominant run blockers. Well, I guess that happens to a lot of people, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's like so when you're asking for 20 mil, like you're thinking like Khalil Mack. You know what I mean? You're thinking like who else, man? Cam Jordan type, JJ Watt type. You're thinking about guys that like Aaron Donald, take over games.
Yeah.
And while Clowney can do that for stretches, he doesn't do that consistently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's the age old issue of okay, is some arrogant coaching staff going to come in and say, hey, I think I can change him,
Yeah,
even though
yeah.
all these other teams haven't and all these other staffs haven't? Am I going to be the one that's going to be able to take advantage? Because he does, like you said, he has the talent of a Mac. He's probably more explosive than Khalil Mack. I mean,
Yeah,
I hate this. It's kind of crazy to say, but his raw talents are crazy. I mean, he's that big and that fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He could be that dude if he had that. I don't know, understanding of the game is right because I don't want to act like he's a dumb player. He's not. Just that consistency overall.
Consistency, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, man. And I think a large part of it too, just like with any pass rusher or any edge player, it has a lot to do. I mean, we seen Khalil Mack this year when Akeem Hicks got hurt. You know what I mean? He wasn't as like. I mean, it's hard. It's harder. You know what I mean? So that brings me to the next thing. Like, I could see when I'm thinking about this, man. I'm thinking about this. And I think him going to a team like Philly could kind of be insane. You know what I mean? Because, like, they have all those guys in the middle. They have Fletcher Cox. They have, who else? We actually got Tim Jernigans, but
They have Fletcher Cox. They have
Derek Burnett,
Malik Jackson,
Malik Jackson.
Derek Burnett,
Yeah, yeah.
Brandon Graham.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Brandon Graham. Yeah.
They don't
he
really
was,
have that speed guy or
yeah,
that
yeah.
switched up dude.
And on that team, like he could kind of be like the Joker on the edge when it comes to their front. So I feel like that would be pretty cool. I think that might put them. I mean, I mean, who the hell in the NFC East right now is gonna block that shit? You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know?
they have some pretty good tackles with Tyron Smith, but they're all kind of older and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be an interesting fit there. I just don't see them spending that much money on a edge guy. I could see a team that feels like they're kind of a piece away on defense,
Yeah.
like a tight end's doing,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
that bigger offer for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was thinking.
You don't want to hear that, but you put him across
Yeah.
from like a Harold Landry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And
that
next to
would just be
fucking
terrifying.
and next to Simmons, who we both like a lot. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, man, and that brings me to the next thing that we didn't really talk about is Mike. Or we kind of I touched on it, Mike Vrabel, man. I mean, uh, when you look at Clowney's best years, okay, like let's start off at the beginning of his career. Uh, first before the season starts, torn meniscus or microfracture. My bad, microfracture. Or maybe he tore his meniscus later. I can't remember. He's had so many knee injuries.
It was microfracture.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
correct.
That
Yeah.
was the first injury. He came back. I mean, he came back close enough to where like nobody could really tell if. I mean, that's another thing too is how much of his inconsistencies is based off of maybe he just doesn't feel, you know. But that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so he comes off of injuries, But his best years that we had was when Mike Vrabel was our linebacker coach. So I mean, if they do pay if they do pay Clowney a lot of money to go to Tennessee, I could see Clowney, becoming. He might not necessarily be Khalil Mack, but I could see him possibly getting 10 sacks and being disruptive, or at least being very disruptive, which we know he can be. And see, that's always been the argument, even when he was with the Texans, because people used to say that all the time. Like people say, Clowney's not doing this and Clowney's not doing that. But people, who are Clowney advocates say, okay, well, he's not producing the stats, but he is being disruptive. But I mean, at some point, do you pay someone based off of their disruption, or do you pay someone based off of them finishing the plays? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
one thing that's interesting to look back at his time with Houston, and maybe you can weed out some of it if you watch the stuff in Seattle too. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to take as much of a look in Seattle, but the thing that I see with his time in Houston is that he wasn't necessarily, even though he was a top pick, his whole defense wasn't built around him, and there wasn't a focus on making him the guy in the same way that there was always a J.J. Watt there that he was always playing second to and always kind of playing off of. And maybe psychologically that didn't work out because of that. But I don't know. I think in all these other places, if he went there and he got paid, I think his upside would be could be a more explosive, less skilled version of Cam Jordan because of how if he played fundamentally like he could be a great run defender. There's no reason physically why he's not a good run defender, and he is. He plays the run well. He just gambles sometimes, and then as a pass rusher, he can just turn it on when he wants to. And if he
Yeah.
just able to really get a better plan going forward, it would really make a huge difference in his growth, I think. And like he's like 26 or something.
Yeah, he's not old. Yeah, he's like 26, 27.
Yeah, and who knows how explosive he is after that microfracture. I mean, he's played a couple years since it, but who knows? I don't know what the time frame is, if there's a expiration date or like you start showing effects or needing another surgery. I don't know what the science is behind that.
Yeah, well, I would say like thinking about it, like Cam Jordan. When I think about Cam Jordan and how he defends the run, like you talking about him like that, like the way Cam Jordan defends the run and the way Clowney defend the run, although it looks like they play the same position, like it kind of seems like to me they do it differently. Like Cam Jordan can't I mean, it's hard
Well,
to
they're
say.
very different schemes, so it's
Yeah,
hard to
yeah,
really. I was just saying in terms of body
yeah. In terms of
setup and like how his stature is and his strength, his play strength and everything. He could kind of play a similar role. But yeah, I mean, I think the one wild card team is the Ravens that you spoke of, just because he would be in first time he would be in a culture like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that he could explode there as like a second career move, similar to a lot of players that go to
Yeah,
Baltimore. There's a
yeah,
lot
and
of players.
they have the talent. They have my bad. They have the talent. They have the talent around him that it would basically everyone around him fits him very well, and he could. I mean, he could be a problem. You know what I
And
mean?
the thing is, I don't even know if it's at this point. I don't even know if it's as much as talent as much as role and coaching.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
would be the number one pass rusher. So all their schemes will be built around his what he does best.
Hmm.
And also, it's a huge difference for a guy. I mean, you think about that in any job. You could look at any job you're doing, what kind of delivery person you are, what kind of doctor you are. If you're a specialty in something, they're going to stick you there.
Hmm.
And they don't need you playing at your second best strength or
Yeah.
whatever. Like this,
Hmm.
say you're running a lot of twists and stunts. Maybe you're better if you're just screaming off the edge and making them commit one or two guys to you every time.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting. I think tight ends and Ravens are the two best choices. Eagles. I mean, the truth is, there's not a bad fit for this dude. It's all about how much money. And I think he might. There's a possibility. You brought it up of the Mike Vrabel connection that he could maybe take less to go back with Vrabel, knowing I don't know how their personal relationship is. We saw a little bit of it on Hard Knocks when they were on it, and they showed them working together, and it seemed like they worked together pretty well.
Well,
So
apparently, like when we were traded him the first time, like Vrabel, the connection that Clowney and Vrabel have, at least from the outside looking in, kind of seems like at least. I mean, I can't say how Clowney feels about Vrabel as a coach, but Vrabel loves Clowney as a player, and I think
shit. And if you think you're a good coach, then why wouldn't you?
yeah, yeah, and I mean, but see, I think the reason why that didn't happen is because we didn't want to have to play him twice. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's all. I want to say I'm sure they offered more than what Seattle did. I can't remember
yeah.
that. I have to go back and look, but
And one thing to make you kind of feel better about the whole Seattle trade, I know it's kind of in the past or whatever, but at least they didn't resign him, or it doesn't look like they're
well,
going to resign him.
well, dumbass trades in Houston Texans, bro. I mean, it kind of seems like it's synonymous, bro. You know.
Ah,
I
yeah,
mean, that was just
we don't have to go. We don't have to go down that dark road.
little did we know, bro. Little did we know when this shit was going on that this was the precursor. Like this was the beginning of, you know. I mean, damn, bro. But that's neither here nor there, you know. Okay, but yeah, man. So yeah, I think we pretty much, wring that one dry. So
There's not a
yeah.
lot left to talk about, Mr. Jadavion.
Yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. Let us know, man. Where do you think Clowney should go, man? Like, do you think Clowney, like Texans fans, were you happy when we traded Clowney? Were you sad when we traded Clowney? How would you feel if Clowney ends up playing against us twice a year? We want to know. Uh, I'm Leo Reyes Rayon.
I'm Josh Glazer.
And hey, comment, like, share, you know what I mean? And let us know how you feeling, man. Let us know how everything's going. And that's all, man.
All right, everybody, stay healthy. Y'all take care.
Yep.